Song of the Dormant for Warcrow is finally here. I want to know, Seb, what is Warcrow and Song of the Dormant?
So Warcrow is actually set in the world of Lindworm, and Warcrow itself is actually a moon, a celestial body that orbits Lindworm. It has a really long orbit, so it only passes every few hundred years.
Okay.
As it does so, it creates a magical awakening. Artifacts start to resonate, magical powers rise, and of course, mysterious dark forces also rise with them.
Okay, very nice. And in terms of Warcrow so far, the story, we've seen a few factions onto the tabletop, haven't we? What are those factions?
So far we've seen the hegemony of Embasig. They are a conglomerate city-state. So they use mostly human forces, but they also have the forces of sometimes dwarves, sometimes elves. They hire a lot of mercenaries, but their main guard is called the Black Legion.
Right, yeah, I really like those models.
Yeah, they look great, don't they?
The cavalry models look absolutely incredible. Okay, great. And what else is there? I see some like kind of orc-looking tribe.
So if you're into the orcs, the northern tribes are for you. In fact, I've never played orcs in another game before. Now I absolutely love the northern tribes, especially the Varank. So the northern tribes are actually two different races combined.
Right.
The orcs, of course, and then you've got the Varank, who are these sort of blue-skinned, elven type, tribal,
warriors.
Warriors. They use magical powers to morph their bodies as well, to take on aspects of different animals. It's really, really cool.
Oh, that like real kind of in touch with nature.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, and then we've got what most people would kind of know as like woodland elves, right?
Yeah, they're called the Sanyanin. And the Sanyanin, in typical corvusbelli fashion, have a really unique aesthetic, adorned in leaves and so on. They also have a couple of models that I have named the ninjas, the wood elf ninjas.
Okay.
They've got these beautiful sort of wrapped like headscarves, and they're sort of leaping out of the forest. They look really, really great. And of course, they specialize in shooting and then hiding in and out of the forest, being able to place forest down on the table. It's really interesting mechanics.
Cool. And is there any other factions that we've missed?
We get two new factions in Song of the Dormant, the official release of the Scions of Yadabath and Fudom.
Yeah, and we've done some other videos talking in depth about what you can expect in terms of like a little bit of lore about them, what you actually get model-wise in the box, and a bit of a play style of some of those really cool units that you get into the box. But if you had to briefly summarize what they both do or are, let's start with the Scions.
Yeah, so the Scions of Yadabath are the descendants of the once great Gaia-Cel Elven Empire. Many years ago, the empire fell apart, and its descendants follow and worship a dark, mysterious force called the Architect, who manifests fog through this sort of creepy, deforming fog throughout the lands of Lindworm.
Why would somebody follow that sort of thing? Is it like a fear that they have, a dread, and more of a, well, if we can't beat them, join them sort of attitude, do you think?
So it's more about body modification and perfection of one's being. So the Scions use the fog to imbue themselves potentially with, extra strength, morphing their bodies into whatever shape that they see fit. And if you're so inclined, then of course that's, going to be something somewhat worthwhile.
Yeah. And I suppose this is where like different races and different civilizations will worship and follow different things based on, maybe how they're inclined morally, right?
Yes,
so if you like kind of death and destruction, then this might be the way you go. And you're going to want to mutate more limbs with more weapons and more muscle and more power, right? Because that's going to help you on your way. So let's take a look though at the Fudom, because this model range for me, it speaks to me.
Yeah,
I love it.
They're really great. So Fudom are a civilization that developed after the fall of the Gaia-Cel Empire, and out of its ashes, they're actually made up of a tribe called the Witta.
Okay.
And they formed a new society based on, tradition, honor, strict code, but also the worship of their two goddesses, Celis and Losna. And you'll see that the knights follow the order of Losna and the priestesses follow the order of Celis.
Okay.
They have powerful magic users in their own right, but they also take on the role of the Mist Guardians. So this mysterious fog, this mysterious mist that I was talking about, it borders their land towards the island of Assail.
Okay.
And they are kind of the guardians to the rest of Lindworm of what may come from the mist.
Oh, wow, that is a responsibility and a half then.
Yeah.
So they are literally the first line.
The first line of defense, yeah.
Wow, that is pretty incredible. Now, is there any sort of allegiances between any of these factions that you've mentioned?
Well, not as formally as yet, but there will be going down the line. So one of the things that corvusbelli likes to do is to introduce mercenary units that will cross over from the different factions that you can use, and then whole mercenary factions eventually, which will be amalgamations of different factions.
Okay.
But currently you can see in all of the factions units that sort of would normally be in other armies, like Embasig, they do have some dwarves in there. And of course, like northern tribes, they have like, another big bear creature, which you might have seen if you've seen some of our models, that also join in, even though they're not strictly part of the faction.
Yeah, and I think, as the storyline probably grows and develops, it's those struggles, isn't it? Of like sometimes, you need to maybe team up with what would have been an enemy in the past, but when there's a greater threat, then sometimes allegiances need to be forged, right? For the
of course
greater
good,
yeah, or even just survival. Let's
Yeah.
just probably call it like that. But yeah, that seems pretty interesting, and so much expansion of where it could go, and like you said, new factions being brought in. What is one of your favorite things about Warcrow?
Oh, my favorite thing about Warcrow has got to be the speed and the constant interaction that you have with your opponent. It's kind of a hallmark of corvusbelli's games, actually. They always like to make sure that both players are constantly engaged, constantly making decisions. And it's something you don't get from a lot of games.
Yeah.
You're never really, there's no real downtime with Warcrow. You're always thinking, and then it's going to be your turn in a minute. It's really good feeling.
And I think that's one of the nicest things in really what drew me to play tabletop games was I spent a long time, like most of us probably do, on our phones, connected to other people all the time. And what's really great is to put the noise to one side and just focus on the time that I'm going to spend with you across the tabletop. I want to be a great opponent to give you incredible challenges, puzzles to solve, and I also want you to do the same for me. And together, although we're on opposite sides, it's a journey that we're both going to go on.
It's a collaborative effort, isn't it? I mean, wargaming is special in general for that exact thing. There aren't many things that get you out and playing with someone else, But also, of course, there can be a bit of a drag, we're talking about other games, maybe sometimes waiting for your opponent to spend an hour taking their turn isn't something you want to do as well. So that's how corvusbelli games are designed, to make sure that sort of thing never really happens. You're always thinking, well, it's going to be my turn in a minute, or
what
I'm
I
doing
need to
something
do
now.
It's got kind of constantly planning your next move, waiting upon or depending on what your opponent's just done, or okay, if they do this, I'm going to do that, thinking a couple of steps ahead, and all that kind of strategy can then unfold. And sometimes, when it is so reactive, the game could go in a completely different way than you might have expected.
Oh, yeah, and uniquely in Warcrow, of course, even when you're being attacked, there are things that you can still be doing on defense, and you're always rolling your dice against your opponent anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not just looking at their dice and waiting for the result. You affect the result of everything they do, and vice versa. Yeah,
and one of the sort of real interesting things that I found in the first few playthroughs is how important your movement is, the measuring aspect, the positioning of, and it is primarily, from what I've seen so far, a combat-orientated game. Of course, there's going to be factions with ranged attacks, but for the most part, there's lots of swords and shields and spears and cavalry and units that need to get up close, and that's really where positioning is so important. So in terms of Song of the Dormant and what we get in this box, you get two factions, as we've kind of already spoke about. In here, you get a great set of terrain. We've got a full unboxing video for you to check out to see exactly what's in it. But it really is everything you need to get started, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's a philosophy that corvusbelli have had for a really long time, is just give you everything you need. And actually, they've got even a step further with Warcrow. So in the box, you get an entire set of dice, and measuring tapes and all the tokens that you're going to need, but you really don't need any more than that. You could stick with a starter set for the rest of the time that you play Warcrow. That would give you more than enough to do that. Yeah. And of course, every starter set has got that in it again. So if you do want to add more, it's easy to get. Yeah. Of course, you can buy extra dice, but the dice that you get in there is going to be going to be more than enough.
All the rules are free. You can just download those, which is fantastic. You also get a campaign booklet in here, so it's like a beginner scenario, and then it evolves into a larger campaign. And you mentioned to me that each result then could impact the next one, and I really like that. Some of my favourite tabletop games that I've ever played have got that continuity in little slight developments of the story that you're playing, or okay, I need to work a little bit harder in that next mission to make sure that I can, even in the game after that, we're on an even keel again. And that's kind of something that really appeals to me as well for a future development. But you can also then still keep the games very competitive as well. So you are trying to really, like I said, be a great opponent, and I want to be the best for you so you have a great game. But anyway, if you want to get your hands on the box set, we're going to put all the links below in the description that you need. But where can people go, Seb?
Yeah, so you can get Song of the Dormant and its accompanying boxes from corvusbelli store, of course, but also your local game store. They should have the pre-order up available. And if you order within the right period, of course, you will get the pre-order exclusive miniature as well.
All right, well, thank you so much, Seb, for joining me. That is Song of the Dormant in a nutshell, and we really hope you enjoy all of the content coming out. So make sure you like, subscribe. Let us know which faction you're going to be going. I'm interested to know. But anyway, see you guys on the next video.